Hello guys, welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about some NHL trade rumors, this time involving Sergei Bobrovsky and Jonathan Quick. Now today, we're going to be talking about two big rumors surrounding Sergei Bobrovsky and Jonathan Quick, and big news on where both of those goaltenders might actually end up getting traded to. Watch till the end to get the inside scoop. Now, the NHL trade deadline is just 20 days away, but we have two superstar goalies on the block, Jonathan Quick and Sergei Bobrovsky, and both of those guys, Bobrovsky and Quick, could be dealt as soon as this week. Now, both of these rumors today surround the Columbus Blue Jackets and are dependent on what the Columbus Blue Jackets do at this NHL trade deadline. For me personally, I have to put Columbus as the most interesting team when it comes to this NHL trade deadline because, of course, they got the two big guys in Panarin and Bobrovsky, two guys that seemingly want to be traded from their teams, but Columbus is going to have some big decisions to make, and with these two rumors today, it's entirely dependent on what Columbus does. If they keep Bobrovsky, if they want to go after another goaltender, it's all depending on that, and of course, the GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Jarmo, he has been outspoken in wanting to make blockbuster moves in the past. And even when you look back a few years ago towards the Ryan Johansson for Seth Jones trade, that was an absolute blockbuster, and we've seen Jarmo, the GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets, not be afraid to make those type of moves to better the team's present and for the future. And right now, I feel like that is still the case for the Columbus Blue Jackets. With Jarmo, he's got two big guys in Panarin and Bobrovsky, but he has to deal from this trade deadline. Whether he's set on signing them in the offseason, whether he's set on trading them, these are two big guys that will determine their future if they get stuff back, if they ended up keeping them. But Jarmo has not been, he's been outspoken to make big moves in the past, and I honestly see him doing another one this trade deadline. Now with the Columbus Blue Jackets, we've heard the rumors before with Sergei Bobrovsky. He's wanting to lead that John Tortorella culture in Columbus. He wants to lead that team. With Artemi Panarin, we've heard him wanting to go to a bigger market, maybe like the New York Rangers. We've heard all these rumors time after time again, but we get a big rumor surrounding Sergei Bobrovsky and a team that is going to likely trade for him. Now, the two big rumors for today is that Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be heading to the Florida Panthers, and after that deal is done, the Columbus Blue Jackets will be calling up LA, asking for Jonathan Quick, and will end up trading for him. Now, this opens up a can of worms, but we're going to start with Sergei Bobrovsky's side of things, and of course, the Florida Panthers. Now, this all starts when the Florida Panthers made a move last week, acquiring Derek Brassard and Wylie from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for Nick Bjugstad and Jared McCann. And with that trade, it opened up a lot of can of worms for a lot of different people. A lot of people speculating that Florida is maybe opening up room for Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky, maybe in the offseason. And a lot was speculated, and Derek Brassard might end up getting traded from the Florida Panthers. But that trade is really what sparked all of this, because before that, Florida really couldn't afford both of those guys. But back when that trade was happening, a lot of people said that Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky would be heading to Florida in the offseason. But right now, as we've gotten that more developing as the week has passed by, it looks like Artemi Panarin is more hesitant to go to the Florida Panthers, and it looks like Columbus Blue Jackets are more hesitant to trade him. But it seems like Sergei Bobrovsky is the main guy the Florida Panthers are targeting and are very interested in. Now, this main rumor surrounding Sergei Bobrovsky and the Florida Panthers comes from Larry Brooks. He is a reporter at the New York Post, and he has been pretty credible in the past for the most part. He isn't like an Elliot Friedman that always spews out the truth, but I think what he is saying here is pretty valid. Now, Larry Brooks says the Florida Panthers are interested in Sergei Bobrovsky, and both Florida and Columbus have been engaging in trade talks ever since that Derek Brassard deal, which of course makes a lot of sense. Now, Larry Brooks also says that if Sergei Bobrovsky were to go to the Florida Panthers, the Columbus Blue Jackets would also get Reimer and Derek Brassard. Now, that wouldn't be all they get, but that would be a couple of pieces that Columbus would get in that potential deal. And that makes sense. I mean, with the Columbus Blue Jackets, them trading a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky, they would likely want a goalie back. And in the other rumor, we'll talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets and their goalie situation, but a guy like James Reimer could fit in there well, especially if they want to trade a guy like a Jonas Korpisalo. And then the other guy in Derek Brassard, who once he was traded to the Florida Panthers, it never seemed like he would stay there for too much longer. So for Columbus, maybe they need an extra center and they could use a guy like that. So I think it would make sense. Now, one of the main difficulties I have with this whole proposed trade is what actually happens to Roberto Luongo. I always was on board with Bobrovsky maybe going to the Florida Panthers. I thought that maybe that would be a pretty solid fit. But the only thing that would happen there is I thought Roberto Luongo would be traded at that point. And with Roberto Luongo, he's old. He hasn't been good this season. He has a pretty still beefy contract. And I'm not sure how many teams would be willing to take up a contract like that. But if Florida Panthers were to get a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky, I think it would shine a lot of light on Roberto Luongo. He could maybe get back to form, but still, that contract is still pretty beefy, and I'm not sure the Florida Panthers would actually be able to handle that. But I do really like the idea of Bobrovsky going to the Florida Panthers. I'm not sure if Artemi Panarin is a good fit there. I feel like they would rather go for defense more than a forward, but I feel like Sergei Bobrovsky is exactly what the Florida Panthers need right now. With the Florida Panthers, they haven't really had great goaltending since they made the playoffs a few years ago, and even then it wasn't that great. So I feel like for the Florida Panthers, getting a good, consistent goaltending is going to be key for them to make the playoffs consistently, and of course that's been a problem for them in the last few years, but Bobrovsky is usually a pretty steady guy. This season has not been too good for him, but I think if he were to go to Florida Panthers, it would be a pretty decent fit. Now, with the Columbus Blue Jackets, when Sergei Bobrovsky was eventually traded, the question was always who would replace him in net. Some people thought that maybe Jonas Korpisalo would step in, but right now I'm not sure if the Columbus Blue Jackets really see him as a #1 guy going forward. And that was always in the air, what would actually happen there. But it seems like we do have an answer, and that answer comes from John Hoven, who says if the Florida Panthers actually do trade for Sergei Bobrovsky, the Columbus Blue Jackets will be heavily in pursuit of Jonathan Quick. And I know what you might be thinking, that's absolutely insane, right? And I'm kind of thinking that too, but the more and more I get adjusted to this whole thing, the more and more I get adjusted to these two rumors, the more it starts to make sense here. Now, the Columbus Blue Jackets are obviously a pretty crazy team if they're going to go out and trade a guy like Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin. They're already pretty creative when it comes to NHL teams, and Jarmo Kekalainen is no exception. If they're willing to trade guys like Sergei Bobrovsky, they're also willing to make big moves to acquire some goaltending, and Jonathan Quick could be a pretty solid add for them. Now, personally, Jonathan Quick is my favorite goaltender in the league. I love him to pieces, and while I'm not a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, it would be pretty interesting to see him going to a contending team and to see how Jonathan Quick can maybe save the Columbus Blue Jackets once again. But for me personally, I would definitely believe these rumors, both the Bobrovsky to Florida one and the Quick to Columbus rumors. John Hoven is a pretty credible guy when it comes to NHL reporting, at Mayor NHL on Twitter. He's a pretty solid guy, but again, this all depends, the Jonathan Quick to Columbus thing all depends on if Bobrovsky actually goes to Florida, which right now seems pretty likely. Now, when people started to mention maybe Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky maybe going to the Florida Panthers, I thought 100% it was going to be in free agency. I didn't think they could pull off a trade in the trade deadline, let alone want to make a trade at the trade deadline. But with the Florida Panthers, it seems like they're a pretty desperate team right now. They're a pretty creative team, and that's what Columbus is exactly. And with Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin, I still see Bobrovsky as the better fit in Florida. I think that holds up true right now. But the Florida Panthers and the Columbus Blue Jackets are kind of similar in situations that they're getting desperate, they're trying to get creative, and right now, I think they could work together. Now, the question for Florida and for the Columbus Blue Jackets is, if this trade actually goes down, what would actually end up going back to Florida? Because with the Columbus Blue Jackets, I mean, Sergei Bobrovsky is on an expiring deal. He hasn't had a good season whatsoever up to this point. So Florida is going to be really interesting to see if they actually end up doing this trade. That is going to be an interesting part, but also, what did they give up? I mean, a guy like Henrik Borgstrom, who is a very solid prospect, could be a good add for Columbus. Same thing as Alexei Heponiemi. But Florida has quite a few spare parts that I think would work for Columbus, and they got quite a few decent prospects in the pipeline. A guy like maybe Grigory Denisenko could also work in Columbus. But if you're going to trade a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky, you also want to get some younger, great assets back. And for Columbus, again, this whole idea of Sergei Bobrovsky going is because Bobrovsky wants to leave the team right now. But again, they might not get fair value back for a guy like Bobrovsky, who is obviously one of the best goaltenders in the world. But Columbus obviously knows that. I mean, with Sergei Bobrovsky, even though he isn't having the greatest season, he is still a bona fide elite goaltender in this league. And when it comes down to it, teams are going to fetch a high price for him. And it looks like Florida is willing to pay the price for a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky. And with Florida, of course, we have the Brassard rumor, the Reimer rumor. I think that is true right now, but it's about those spare parts like Henrik Borgstrom that could potentially go back to Columbus that I think might get this deal done. And while for me personally, I think it's pretty wise to take these rumors with a grain of salt, these rumors do make sense. I mean, with the Florida Panthers, they've been needing goaltending for a while. Columbus is willing to give up Sergei Bobrovsky willing to go to another team. And when it comes to the Quick to Columbus rumors, if Sergei Bobrovsky actually does go to Florida, that could mean Quick could go. I mean, I think he's a solid fit for Columbus. Quick brings a lot of stability, and even though he is an older goaltender, he still has a lot to bring. And for the LA Kings, they're a shipping team, they're a selling team. In this trade deadline, a guy like Jonathan Quick will likely be sold anyways, and the Columbus Blue Jackets could jump on that bandwagon early. And obviously, the LA Kings are going through that rebuild right now. They already traded a guy like Jake Muzzin, and I feel like they're willing to give up a lot more guys like a Jeff Carter, a Tyler Toffoli even. But LA is not done selling, and even with this trade deadline, a guy like Quick could be off as soon as this week. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, if they actually do end up trading a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky, I do think Quick would be a pretty solid fit. He has shown playoff success before with the LA Kings being able to get 2 cups, and I feel like with Columbus, they've obviously had a lot of years where they made the playoffs and lost in the first round, and a guy like Jonathan Quick, who comes up clutch every time, could be just what they need. And obviously, you should take these trade rumors with a grain of salt before they actually end up happening. But I feel like with these 2 rumors today, Bobrovsky going to Florida, Quick going to Columbus, I feel like those 2 things could definitely end up happening. And we've seen 2 rumors in the past that looked pretty convincing and didn't end up happening. But with these 2 rumors today, while they're not from a guy like Elliot Friedman or Bob McKenzie, they make a lot of sense. And for Columbus, they also make a lot of sense to do. Of course, getting rid of Bobrovsky, getting a lot of prospects back, and then maybe giving up some more assets to get Jonathan Quick. I feel like it could work for pretty much all sides here, the LA Kings, Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Florida Panthers. Now, for me personally, I'm still going to take these rumors with a grain of salt, but at the end of the day, these rumors do make sense. They make sense for the teams involved, they make sense for the players going in and out, and for the Columbus Blue Jackets, most of these trade scenarios make sense. It also depends on what they get for guys like Bobrovsky, what they give up for guys like Jonathan Quick, but I feel like this just makes sense overall with the players, the teams, and the NHL in general. But again, these trades are almost completely dependent on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Both trades, obviously, including Columbus Blue Jackets. But the Columbus Blue Jackets, again, are going to be a very interesting team to watch surrounding this whole trade deadline, because they can make a various amount of moves, various amount of creative trades. But with Panarin and Bobrovsky, obviously, those 2 guys will be the guys looked at the most with Columbus. But with Bobrovsky, again, I feel like he is the more likely going to be shipped out with this trade deadline. But I feel like having him go to Florida would be a pretty solid fit. And Jonathan Quick going back to Columbus is something that I would probably want to see. But as the trade deadline approaches, the Columbus Blue Jackets will be the main team to keep an eye on. Again, with Panarin and Bobrovsky, the 2 biggest fishes in the trade deadline pool, they'll be a serious team to contend throughout the trade deadline. What guys end up getting traded, if Bobrovsky actually goes to the Florida Panthers, and if the Columbus Blue Jackets actually end up getting Jonathan Quick. But nonetheless, even if that doesn't end up happening, Columbus is going to be a very interesting team to watch, and of course, very interesting to see if these trades actually happen. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about these NHL trade rumors? What do you think about Sergei Bobrovsky going to the Florida Panthers? What do you think about Jonathan Quick going to the Columbus Blue Jackets? And do you think these trades will actually happen? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about the Columbus Blue Jackets and if trade rumors are ruining their team. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Can you comment down below your thoughts on these potential trade rumors and if you think they'll happen. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.